Oil.
Harris, good morning. We start with breaking news. State media reports that Iran has halted the passage of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz.
Murders.
This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officer.
Ceasefire.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Conflicts.
This deadline that President Trump has set, 8 p.m., has threatened to destroy a civilization. How does an investor process that? Is it a bigger upside risk or downside risk?
Invasions.
De la República Bolivariana de Venezuela y no vamos a permitir que ninguna bota yanqui, que ningún extranjero nos quite nuestro presidente porque nosotros lo elegimos a él y con él nos vamos a quedar.
Resistance. The resistance.
I ain't never been a fake bitch ever. I can never hang with a lame bitch, never.
Amid the global troubles, Black people are surviving like we always do. Surviving, but not subverting. With alienation attitudes rising in Black America, there's been a concerted effort from certain groups to separate Africanity from the African American identity. The chicken or the egg monologues that have divided all parts of Black culture into them versus us.
Well, the myth about hip-hop that a lot of people are promoting now is that we got hip-hop from Caribbean culture, and that's no disrespect to the Caribbean culture, but hip-hop came from foundational Black American culture rooted in the South.
What was important to me was, like I said, to promote Black unity and Black community, because under the umbrella of white supremacy and racism, we are all Black.
These rumors were made by radical Black racists.
I'm Sayou Cooper, and this is The Griots, reporting on hip-hop culture through a mix of soapbox editorials, weird commercial breaks, and some very serious guests.
This is 125th Street. Transfers available to the A, B, C, and D trains. Transfers available to the M60 Select Bus Service.
Beginning my investigation of hip-hop soul ownership, I got stuck early on the title of this episode. Titles for episodes on the YouTube side of this platform can be an annoying process, a balance between CEO keywords and my poor attempt at Nathan Fielder level absurdist humor. I knew I wanted to say something like hip-hop belongs to Black people, particularly Black people descended from American chattel slavery, but that wording was too long and evident that my research question wasn't strong enough. Also, I wasn't speaking to the entirety of the Americas, like Brazil and the Caribbean, which have substantial Afro populations. I only wanted my wording to point to what colonizers call the United States of America, and that colonizers' projects racial capitalism built on kidnapped Africans. The terminology comes from Cedric Robinson's Black Marxism, the making of the Black radical tradition. But back to my cousins. What would I refer to them as? Should I say Afro-American, foundational Black American, African American, or just
nigga this, nigga that, nigga please?
Blackamoor, Ethiopian, Negro, free person of color, yellow, maroon, musty, dusky, mulatto, bright mulatto, dark mulatto, quadroon, octoroon, griff, Creole, Negro again, colored, Afro-American, African American, Black.
The settler colonial project, the United States of America, over its existence has gone through a variety of names to describe Africans they kidnap, torture, and rape. But the state's most contemporary terminology, African American, and its widespread circulation stem from the advocacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson, a civil rights activist. Reverend Jackson worked with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. To be called African Americans, he said, has cultural integrity. It puts us in our proper historical context. Every ethnic group in this country has a reference to some base, some historical culture base.
I prefer to be called African American because African American reflects the true nature of my cultural heritage.
And I think it's better for you to be called Black. What's wrong with that? It's different Black. It's Black Africans. It's Black West Indians, you know. Black is beautiful. That's what I have to say.
I'm an American, whether I'm a Black American or what, don't make any difference. I'm just an American.
You had the caucus in the election, they kept calling him Greek American, so being that every black person over here has African heritage, you know, it should be called African American.
Reverend Jackson's Black liberation theology is different from that of Kwame Ture, formerly Stokely Carmichael's Pan-Africanism.
Let's go to Mr. Ture here. In the 1960s, as I said before, you were one of the ardent proponents of using the term black. How do you feel now about abandoning it in favor of African American?
Well, I do not even use the term African American. I use the term Africans because that's what we are. We're Africans in America. There's nothing American about us. Our history has only been a history of struggle in America. We are the only ethnic group in America who have to shed our blood to make reform. To get the vote, we must shed our blood. To get our children to school, we must shed our blood. To get on a bus and sit where we want, we must shed our blood. To even get in a filthy 5 and 10 cent store, we must shed our blood. So I don't see how we could be American. We're Africans in America struggling against American capitalism. And only until it's destroyed will we enjoy the rights that everyone else is speaking of.
Ture was an organizing member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and a well-known activist in the civil rights movement. In the later chapters of his life, he went further left, leaving SNCC, joining the Black Panther Party, separating from them, and ultimately settling with the All Africans People Revolutionary Party under mentorship from Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president and Pan-Africanist. In trying to settle the name thing, I thought the best place for clarification would just be my friends who meet the classification I'm looking at. First was Miles, who runs 11th Street. They helped with the production of Season 2's finale party. Miles' father immigrated to Brooklyn from Barbados when he was a teenager, and Miles' mom got here through slavery. Miles told me he identifies as African American and Bayesian. Then I hit up my other friend Michael soon after, who I knew was somebody I wanted to get an answer from. He actually inspired this episode through our lively conversations on diaspora wars. Don't really care. To other African, Black Americans, I'll call them whichever they prefer, but I could care less on what others decide to call me, he messaged.
Hi folks, Frank and Flank. Check out the all-new Pelham Cafe right here in Pelham. Open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Lady Jock, have you had lunch yet?
No, I haven't.
Let's go in and have lunch.
Soul
Bacon,
food,
ham,
soul
grits,
food,
egg,
soul food.
lunch, hamburger, seafood, collard greens, cornbread, pork chop. That much How about the mac and cheese, fried chicken, collard greens, oxtail, cornbread, iced tea? Talk to me.
It's awesome. I came hungry, I'm leaving full. Come on in and get you something. You can get your meal right here.
Soul food, soul food, soul food.
On August 11, 1973, a back-to-school jam was hosted in the rec room of 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. The address housed a multi-unit apartment building home to Black and brown Bronx residents. By the 1970s, parts of the borough had experienced white flight, an American-based term to describe the social phenomenon of white people fleeing urban areas when these areas saw an influx of immigrants or non-white racial groups. Starting at 9 p.m. and ending at 4 a.m., the party's music was provided by DJ Kool Herc. The Jamaican-American DJ is widely regarded as the founder of hip-hop, and this party, the creation of hip-hop.
That was the main point of the film.
And no other races.
Right. All of the elements of hip-hop, every single element, as we shown in the movie, was created by foundational Black Americans, and other people came and picked up on them later.
Born in Kingston, Jamaica, Herc immigrated to the United States in his preteens.
I like those foundational guys. They're so good. Tariq Nasheed and all. I mean, I don't agree with everything, but they've got a perspective.
Hip-hop started when my father brought a PA system and didn't know how to hook it up. I was messing around with the music, and I started out by buying a few records to play at my house.
Those people coming in from Jamaica or coming in from Africa, they have not been treated like black folk in this country. That's the first thing. And secondly, historically, they haven't had those historical experiences. They come in here voluntarily.
When I was doing that, I saw a lot of kids playing outside in the backyard. My sister asked me to give a party one day. Actually, she wanted me to play at a party. And I went out and got around 20 records that I felt were good enough, and we gave a party and charged about 25 cents to come in and made $300. DJ Kool Herc told David Deed in a 1989 interview. So with DJ Kool Herc, a Jamaican-American regarded as the founder of hip-hop, does that not mean African-Americans created the culture? The answer is convoluted, but to keep it short, yes, African-Americans still created hip-hop.
What did James Brown mean to you, and what do you think James Brown means to hip-hop?
I used to sit down and listen to his records like, yo, what was this dude doing back then, man? What was he on? He was on a whole new planet, man. And to take what he did then, that was like the beginning of hip-hop, man. The vibe that he came on, the beats, the horns loud, the dancing, the screaming, you know what I mean? It became swagger.
Back to Kool Herc. Hip-hop, the whole chemistry of that came from Jamaica. Because I'm West Indian. I was born in Jamaica, I was listening to American music in Jamaica, and my favorite artist was James Brown. That's who inspired me. A lot of the records I played were by James Brown. When I came over here, I just had to put it in the American style and a drum and bass. So what I did here was go right to the yoke. I cut off all anticipation and played the beats. I found out where the break in the record was and prolonged it, and people would love it. So I was giving them their own taste and beat percussion-wise, because my music is all about heavy bass. Hip-hop's conception isn't a miraculous or virgin one like Jesus Christ. Several African-American music genres and African diasporic cultures led to the fateful August 11, 1973 back-to-school jam. A few years back, I had a wild 3-month stint in Accra, Ghana. In the latter part of my stay, I lived in an Airbnb in East Legon, a neighborhood known for wealthy Ghanaians and foreigners. I smoked every day, listened to Sade obsessively, and picked out on street food that sometimes gave me diarrhea. On one occasion, I grabbed dinner with another house guest down the road at a local restaurant, a tall and skinny Nigerian guy my age, briefly in the city for some visa work with an upcoming employer in the UAE. After ordering our food, I think for me, light soup and fufu, I gestured towards a hookah bar next door for some drinks and smoke. With a loud Afrobeats playlist blasting through the speakers, I ended up screaming my questions to him for most of the night. Talking about our African identity as young adults, our conversation moved from careers to dating to art. As we started talking about the differences between the East and West, he made a comment about African Americans. Something along the lines of, I could never be African American, they have no culture. Fully at the start of my socialist Pan-African pivot, I was shocked by the remark. Of course, growing up in the American Project as a black immigrant, I've heard derogatory stuff about African Americans made by people around me. And as a youngin', I no doubt had a crass rebuttal to go back to Africa. But after college and being in a melting pot of various black identities, I scoffed at this divisiveness, blaming the older generation and kids who hadn't left home yet and experienced the world. Hearing someone of my age, educated and well-traveled, engage in such rhetoric was confusing.
Hip-hop is a culture based on 4 foundational elements: DJing, MCing or rap, graffiti, and breakdancing.
1973 is when Herc did the big party, right? But it was going on before Herc.
Coming from the disco era, you know what I mean, we were inner city kids. We couldn't get into disco, so we had to recreate that disco. And that's what basically hip-hop started out as, like the bastard child of disco. I mean, it was our rebellion against that.
Now, with that being said, Spanish people were there. They were break dancing. I don't know if I can't say if they was the ones that helped invent it. Can't say that.
Long before hip-hop's inaugural moment in the Bronx in 1973, sound clashing was a central fixture in the inner-city neighborhoods of Kingston, Jamaica. By the mid-1950s, the formation of competing local DJ crews or sound systems generally included at least one record selector, MC, and sound tech operating a rig of amps, speakers, mics, turntables, and records. At the moment of Jamaica's independence from Great Britain in 1962, sound systems were slowly becoming features of a widening Jamaican diaspora, with a cultural phenomenon reaching East London and eventually New York City. Important waves of Jamaican immigration to the US and England continue mostly unabated during this period, a product of the fact that migrants could circumvent America's otherwise strict barriers by claiming British citizenship, a legacy of British colonization. While cane-cutting Jamaican migrants tended to toil in the seasonal labors of the American South, most permanent newcomers went to urban centers, settling in the established immigrant havens of New York City and the surrounding tri-state area. Immigrants, among them Kool Herc's family, brought their folk cultures and sound system traditions with them. Alex Rhoda for Time magazine. Hip-hop was born in New York City, but its roots are in the Caribbean.
Beautiful hair. Every woman's crowning touch. For years we've trusted dark and lovely relaxers to give us just the look we want.
Our lineage goes back to this country longer than the lineage to their country because their countries are relatively new.
There was this sound of gunshots. The gas burned your throat, your eyes, you couldn't hear.
especially over there in West Africa. Not just West Africa, all of Africa, many of those countries were basically created in the 1800s at the Berlin Conference. So they don't have a deep, rich culture. That's why a lot of them have to leave because of a lot of tribalism.
Fortell henne something about my ancestor them. I can feel the presence they are there with me now.
There's an undeniable Caribbean and ultimately African influence in hip-hop. Like most young black immigrants, by the time DJ Kool Herc created hip-hop in 1973, he had assimilated into American culture. American culture by de facto is African American culture mixed with racial capitalism. White people in America struggle to have a cultural identity that isn't rooted in the exploitation of oppressed people. They steal the cultures of the black, brown, and yellow proletariats and rebrand them as American. In the global north, the United States has a lethal and effective propaganda machine, one that exports a curated version of African American culture for its imperialist needs. That's why you think you know so much about African Americans, but really don't. From the name of this platform, particularly the word griot, I'm constantly making direct references of Africanity in hip-hop culture. Out of its creation, hip-hop has never been a closed or exclusive thing just for African Americans. More of a mix of everyone from the African diaspora putting something into the pot to share and consume.
New bridges must be built because in the minds of the majority of our people today, Africa is too far away. So the only way you and I can point them in that direction is build new bridges. We have to have the type of understanding of Africa and the type of understanding of our people here in order to build a bridge, a contact, a line of communication between the two. And once the lines of communication have been established and our African brothers can stretch forth their hands and reach us, and we can stretch forth our hands and reach them, why there's nothing that this blue-eyed man in this country will be able to do to you and me successfully from that day onward.
Rap is fundamentally based on vocal styling based on call and response, which is the foundation of all black music. Ojing music from the Igbo people is 1,000 years old, it's call and response. If you listen to the Orikis in Yoruba with a pre-singing, it's call and response. If you listen to the foundations of Fuji from the Yoruba people, it's hip-hop. Music is a ritual for us in Africa. It's not just entertainment. Nigerian music executive Obi Asika told CNN in 2023. Despite the mixing pot hip-hop can be, it is once again distinctly African-American culture. Yes, a West African griot was the first rapper, but it took the survival of those formerly enslaved West Africans to get hip-hop to where it is now. Post the 20th century, African Americans are the most influential African diasporic group, and you can understand their rightful resentment of their culture's extraction. Imagine being repeatedly told you don't have a culture just for other African diasporic groups to piggyback off said culture and suddenly argue it was a group effort. Imagine being so restricted from your history that Africanity is foreign to you, and you seek acceptance in a settler colonial project that wants your labor and death. In trying to lay perimeters around their identity, some African Americans have unfortunately taken the anti-Pan-African route. The rise of black separatist groups such as Foundational Black Americans, the American Descendants of Slavery, and so on are right on par with the political context of America right now. Nativism and nationalism is thriving under the Trump administration, and it's no surprise some black people have been swept up by the propaganda. While a liberated African American is dependent on a liberated African, the two cannot exist without each other. Reporting from the east coast of the American Empire, I'm Sayou Cooper, and this is The Griots. I wrote and produced this episode. Our Instagram and other cool stuff can be found on our website. Links are always in the description. Thank you to the ancestors. Until next time.